All right, I wanted to offer one last piece of guidance for this lab that's due on Sunday. And so far, we've set up this lab, we've got it deployed on Google Cloud, and we have a users module where we're adding new users and editing users. And as of right now, I'm asking you to kind of do the same thing, you being my students, for the bug module. And so in the lab, you could see all the expectations for bugs. If you kind of scroll to the bottom, all the routes and all the requirements for those 50 points. And so there were also some points for all the users, 40 points for the users. That was the part that I started you with. And there's also 10 points for making a static homepage. Now, this is the piece that I'm going to help you with today, is making this static homepage. So I will open up my issue tracker, and we're going to basically touch React a little bit here, and we'll revisit this throughout the course. But remember that all of our React code was in this front end folder, and all of our components, all of our React components are in here. Really, it's just one component called app. And so really, you could treat this component as, well, you can write both JavaScript and HTML, but we really just need to focus on the HTML right now. And so you can come in here, and if I add a class name of text, success, this is a Bootstrap class, and in the JavaScript world, we have to give it so this is an HTML tag, and this is our attribute of the HTML tag. So we have to give the attribute the class name attribute instead of the class attribute, because class is a reserved word in JavaScript, so there's a conflict there. So that's why it's class name instead of just H1 class. And then if I kind of just boot this up to test it, what I need to do, notice my terminal is in my issue tracker. I'll do cd to my front end, and npm run dev. It's going to be how I kind of run this in my dev environment. And what I need to do is kind of get this wired up so that that class name is being applied appropriately. I'm not getting this Bootstrap class. And so you can see it is showing my H1 class of text success, but I would expect that to be green, and I'm not seeing that text of green. And this might be because of, well, the class of Bootstrap class of text success. You can see that selector. See, these are all the selectors that are applying. And I don't see text success. So if I go to Get Bootstrap and I go to the docs and I go down to my text for my typography, and let me find text success. Maybe the problem is me and not with Bootstrap. Moment here. So while I've paused, I think what's happening is my styles are possibly being overridden. And so what I want to do is kind of delete any other references that might be overriding some of mine. So let's start digging through app.css. I don't want or need app.css, so I'm going to delete this import because I don't need any app CSS. So now let me save that and open it up. And you can already see it's starting to be styled a little bit differently here. And then one more thing, if I go to main.jsx, there's another import here to index CSS. I don't want that. So I'm going to delete those kind of two different references to CSS. Now we're here. Okay, this is good. And I need to bring in Bootstrap at this point. And so if I go into, and there's a couple different ways that we'll learn to do this. Outside of the source directory, there's the index file, and you see that this opens with main.jsx. So this opens that main.jsx file. I'm going to bring in Bootstrap here by going to getbootstrap.com. I'm going to go to the docs. And if you scroll down, to bring in Bootstrap to an HTML page, you have to bring in the CDN. Notice I'll actually scroll down to the CDN links. You can see here there's a CSS CDN and a JavaScript CDN. And the full link tag for the JavaScript or for the CSS is right here. So this is right here on, again, if you go to docs, getting started with Bootstrap. I'm going to copy this link tag into my index HTML head. And I'm going to copy the JavaScript tag to bring in the CDN for the JavaScript. And I will do that before main.jsx. So now that I've brought in Bootstrap to my project, I could see now I'm starting to get my text danger being applied. So let me kind of close this, close, and go back to my app.jsx. You could see I've got a text danger and a font size of 5. So I can kind of delete that. And if I put my class name of, well, I don't even need that button right now. So now I've got Bootstrap enabled, and now we're kind of starting from a blank canvas. And so what I'm basically making is a Bootstrap navbar with users and bugs. And this front end is going to hit the routes for our back end. And so keep in mind that right now, Jim pointed out maybe explaining the difference between this port localhost 5173. So when we're looking at our issue tracker and we go into our front end folder and we run the run dev script, this is a React script that just boots up React. When I go up a directory and I run our start here, this boots up Express, which it says the port is already in use, which is a good thing to kind of troubleshoot. If you didn't shut down the port, you can go into your task manager by holding Control-Alt-Delete, and you can see I actually have a node instance running, that if I end that node instance, then that port will no longer be running. So if I run that command again, that just fixed the problem. Okay, so again, I just want to point out the different scripts that we have to run either the Express server or the React server. So by going back into my front end and then running my run dev script, now we're just looking at the front end. And anything that we make here should prepare us on the front end just in React. So what do we want to build here? Well, we want to build, for example, a Bootstrap navbar that points, these links up top should point to the all users and all bugs route. And so these links, typically links on the front end, point you at other HTML pages. These particular links are just going to point you at back-end routes that display up and serve up some data. So I'm going to demonstrate this, and then you guys, again, I'll get you started, and then you will be able to kind of finish it. So so we're going to have, it says, a header, a main, and a footer. So I'll start with the div class name of container. This is a Bootstrap container, so that I can put my header, HTML header. I think it said main and footer kind of thing. And then inside of header, I'm going to piece together a Bootstrap navbar. Now I can do that from the docs. And if I go to navbar and try and find a real simple navbar. So here's a navbar on Bootstrap. And that's not a simple navbar, so I'm going to go right past that. Now we're talking about, you know, some simple navbars as we scroll down. This is a pretty simple navbar here. So I'll bring in this code chunk that if you go to the navbar and kind of scroll down, you just see a navbar with a couple links. And I'm going to paste that navbar into the header. And as I mentioned before, every time you see the word class, it needs to be replaced with class name here. So I'm going to do a Control F and find and replace. So you notice all I have is classes, and I'm going to replace them with class name. And so that's kind of and this little button right here is to replace all. Right? So you can see kind of a quick way of replacing the attribute one with another. If I save that and kind of boot it up, you can see we now have a Bootstrap navbar. And if I kind of go down and simulate a mobile view, because we got the JavaScript CDN, we're getting that this Bootstrap effect from our navbar. So we're going to have home, which should take us to the root. If I go back to the mock-up here, we really don't even have a home. We just have my issue tracker, users, and bugs. So we'll change this to say my issue tracker, and at this point, that's not even a link. Really, that looks like a navbar brand to me. And so if you get into the brand and we get into text, this brand here is just an anchor tag without a link. And so after the navbar container fluid, we can have a brand. Let's see if it can either be a span or an anchor tag. I'm going to replace this first one as such, and this will say issue tracker. Let me save that and take a look at it in the browser. Okay, so now that says issue tracker. I gotta delete the word navbar. I don't need the word navbar here. Oh, there's my navbar brand. Okay, I'll make it a span so it's not clickable. Close the span. I already had a navbar brand, and I'll make this my issue tracker. Then I can just delete that first li. There we go. So issue tracker, and then this becomes list all users. And so my first link takes me to /API user list. List all users. Okay, so here's my navbar for my issue tracker to list all users. Notice when I hit it, it takes me here. Which currently has this functionality. Now, keep in mind, okay, so as I close this, we ran a command that generated files in this dist folder. And then we said that our Express server looks at that dist folder. So now that I've changed code, and a fair amount of code inside of here, I'm going to do this npm run build, and that will regenerate my dist folder. So that when my backend loads that dist folder, if I kind of go up a directory and I do npm run the start dev script, and I load this up, we now have this kind of redeployed dist folder to list all users. Now notice when I hit it here, when I run it from my Express server, we are in fact listing all of my users. And so that's all we're doing here. We're going to make a bunch of static links to list all my users. Maybe I'll make another one to list a user by ID. So let me kind of demonstrate one or two or so more of these and kind of bring this into scope. So let me go back into my front end and app.jsx. So there's my list all users. Now inside of main, I'll do a div class name of a bootstrap row, and I'll do two calls. Div class name of call, we'll just do call hyphen 6. So two columns that are call 6, and then I'll just do H1 or H2. So one of these will be for users, and H2, one of these will be for bugs. So let me go back into my front end. I'll do npm run dev, and I should see now users and bugs. And again, you can get into styling all day long with making this look how you want it. I believe text center is going to help me get that kind of more centered on users. Text center on bugs. Okay. We can put a little bit of a border. So go to Bootstrap borders and just get a class of border secondary, maybe border space. Okay, so again, it's not super critical to get the styling here. I just wanted to show you how to kind of wire up the front end with the back end. And back here, now we just have some links. And the links, you can see the anchor tags have the text name of the user. And so we can kind of do that. I'll do a bootstrap list. And so you can kind of see here an unordered list of items. So for my users, I will format my users in a list, and these become class name. And I think we have 3 users that are pretty consistently there. User 2, user 3. I can delete these other ones. User 1, user 2, user 3. And what is the route for this? Well, it's /API slash user slash one slash API slash user slash two. And if these users actually have names, you could put that in the clickable text of your anchor tag. But now to kind of display this, now we got user 1, user 2, user 3. If I click it, again, you get this functionality on React, but that's not the functionality that you'll basically get at the end. What I mean by at the end is when you run it from your Express server. So let me go ahead and close that from running. I'm going to run my build script to regenerate. Again, we changed the React code, so we need to rerun our build script to rebuild the dist folder. And again, we're going to hit this a lot more in detail later, so it's just a crash course right now. To get this all working together, I'm going to go up a directory and run npm run start dev is going to run nodemon with this currently running, and there we go. And you can see when I hover, it actually hits my backend route and gets one user by their ID. So pretty simply put, we've got list all users, we've got list user 1, we've got list user 2, we got list user 3. It's all up and running. You could do the same thing. Add a link for list all bugs, list individual bugs, put a footer down there, put your name in the footer, and turn the lab in for the last 10 points. You will be done. Now, that's how you get those last 10 points there. Now, the last thing I'm going to do, just for the sake of doing it, is I'm going to deploy to Google Cloud one more time because I've made some changes. And that command is to gcloud run deploy issue tracker hyphen service, enter US Central, and I'll be back when this is done. All right, so we have redeployed, and so if I go to my service URL, control click, open that up, you can see our new front end that we've built out is out there live on gcloud. And if I click on list all users, it's listing it on gcloud. If I go to list user 1, there we go. So just wanted to show how to kind of quickly build out that static front end. And again, I realize, it's a lot, and we're not exactly just focused on learning Node or Express when we're bringing in React too, but it was a good time to kind of get this all up and running in gcloud, and it will after this week, next week we're just really focusing on Mongo, and so we're not going to be kind of all over the place like it's been this week. So hopefully you don't feel like it was too much. Hopefully you feel like at least the help was enough to get you going. And reach out if and when you guys have questions. Oh, one last thing. Of course, let's push to GitHub so that you guys can have my updated source code for my issue tracker. Again, issue tracker, no space, git commit to master, updated front end code. Push that out to GitHub. All right.